Apple is launching some major new products this month, so here's a rundown of everything to expect and also what not to expect from Apple's October 2024 announcements. And by the way, speaking of new products, you guys have asked us to update our app wallpapers to let you quickly jump from an individual wallpaper to the full pack that it belongs to. Well, we've just updated our app to include this functionality. So whether you're on the free page browsing all of our beautiful 120 plus free 8K wallpapers, or you're on the favorites page browsing your own saved collection, you can now press here and you'll be immediately taken to the full pack. Also, if you're a designer and you want to join our app wallpapers, simply email creators@wallpapersapp.com with some samples of your work. Okay, so starting off with what to expect first, the first product here is the new iPad mini, which Apple already announced through a press release. And this is why I said Apple's October 2024 announcements rather than Apple's 2024 October event, as I'm not sure if they'll actually have an event anymore or more press releases instead, like they did with the iPad mini. So, what's new with this iPad mini? Well, the biggest upgrade is its chip. We're going from the A15 to the A17 Pro, which not only brings some significant performance improvements, but also brings Apple Intelligence to the iPad mini, or at least it will bring Apple Intelligence when it officially launches. Aside from this, we also get support for the new Apple Pencil Pro, double the storage at 128GB compared to the previous 64, faster connectivity thanks to Wi-Fi 6E as opposed to Wi-Fi 6, and Bluetooth 5.3 from Bluetooth 5. There are also a couple of more changes, such as the name change. It's simply just called iPad mini A17 Pro now instead of the 7th gen iPad mini. It also comes with a faster 10 gigabit per second USB-C port, up from the 5 gigabit per second that we had before. We also have Smart HDR4 for image processing, up from 3, which is a bit weird as the iPhone 15 Pro with the A17 Pro chip does support Smart HDR5. But anyway, for the most part, this is the same iPad mini as before, just with a much faster chip, Apple Intelligence, and support for the Apple Pencil Pro. And if you're a fan of small compact tablets, then this iPad mini is literally the best option out there. I just hope that with the next version, we'll see things like an OLED display, 120Hz, and hopefully some thinner bezels too. The second product to expect is the M4 MacBook Pro. Now, this was heavily leaked before in two hands-on videos from Russian tech YouTubers Wilsacom and RomanChef768. I've already covered this in this video right here, but as a quick recap, there are 5 major upgrades to expect with this new M4 MacBook Pro. 1. The space black color will now be present on the base model too, as opposed to just the M3 Pro and M3 Max like before. Number 2, we're also getting a third Thunderbolt port on the right, now matching the more expensive models. Number 3, we're also getting dual monitor support with the lid open, something that was shown in one of these leaked videos. Number 4, we're also getting 16 gigabytes of RAM on the base model, up from 8, which was actually very problematic before as it caused plenty of crashes in certain apps. And number 5, we are of course getting the new M4 chip, which based on leaked benchmarks is looking like a massive upgrade, with a 25% higher single-core performance than the M3 MacBook Pro and a 32% higher multi-core performance. This is really the biggest performance jump that we got since the M1 chip. So if you got an M1 or M2 MacBook Pro, not even to mention older, now would actually be a good time to upgrade. The next new October product to expect is the higher end version of this MacBook Pro with the M4 Pro and M4 Max chips. We haven't had any leaked benchmarks here, but what I mentioned in our M4 MacBook Pro video right here was that the leaked Geekbench performance of the M4 MacBook Pro actually surpassed the performance of the unbinned M3 Pro chip in terms of single core and even matched it in terms of multi-core. So based on this, we should expect some very significant performance gains on the M4 Pro and M4 Max chips. My guess is that the M4 Pro will get 2 extra high performance cores for a total core count of 14, while the M4 Max could get either 2 efficiency cores or 2 performance cores for a total core count of 18. The M4 Pro could then match the CPU performance of the M3 Max, while the M4 Max would likely surpass the multi-core performance of even the M2 Ultra, making it Apple's fastest chip ever made. Now, the fourth product to expect is actually the one that I'm excited for the most, and that is the new Mac Mini. This is said to be the first Mac Mini redesign since the 2010 model, with a design that's said to be significantly more compact than the current Mac Mini, and possibly even be as small as an Apple TV. Now, that's pretty insane when you consider that this will also be a fully fledged computer. On top of this, it is all set to come with 5 USB-C ports, 2 of which will be on the front, as opposed to only 2 that we had on the base M2 Mac Mini. Of course, the USB-A ports will be ditched, but the HDMI and Ethernet ports are likely to remain. I'm definitely curious to see how this new tiny Mac Mini would be able to fit all of these ports, especially if it does end up being as small as the Apple TV. But the whole idea of us getting this super tiny computer with the power of the M4 chip, and the M4 Pro by the way, because yes, there's going to be an M4 Pro variant too, I think that's just going to be truly incredible. Because you see, if you do need a ton of performance, but you simply cannot afford to spend $2,000 or so for the M4 Pro MacBook Pro, you'll be able to get this Mac Mini from anywhere between $1,300 to $1,500, depending on how Apple prices this. And then, of course, you can use your own keyboard, mouse, and monitor with it. Now, the next new product for October is going to be the iMac, which is also getting a bump to the M4 chip. Now, we're not expecting any other changes aside from the M4 chip, although I would love to see some new colors and also an M4 Pro variant. I think that Apple could easily release an M4 Pro iMac if they wanted to, which would simply fill this gap of people who want more performance out of their all-in-one desktop, something that Apple hasn't really had since the 27-inch iMac, which of course they discontinued back in 2022. Although you could argue that the M4 chip's performance will be plenty fast too, as we're now getting better performance than even the M3 Pro chip. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on if you think Apple should release an M4 Pro iMac. So these are all the products to expect. However, there are some products that would still make sense to be announced now in October. However, they would only be announced later. And the first of these products is the M4 MacBook Air. Of course, it would definitely make a lot of sense for Apple to update the MacBook Air to the M4 chip alongside all of these other Macs. However, the Air is only set to be getting updated in the spring of 2025. Probably in March, which would be exactly 1 year after the introduction of the M3 MacBook Air. And I think that this will be a huge update to the Air. Like, not only will it come with 16 gigabytes of RAM by default, but we'll also be able to have up to 32 gigabytes of RAM, literally the most we've ever had on a MacBook Air. And unless Apple disables this through software, we'll also have the ability to connect 2 external displays whilst still keeping the lid open. Personally, I'm going to stick with my M3 Air, at least until Apple adds an OLED display. That's when I'm going to be upgrading. Another Mac that also won't see an upgrade for a while is the Mac Studio. Of course, Apple could easily just give it the M4 Max chip right now, but because it is also set to feature the M4 Ultra, well, that chip won't be ready for a while. According to Mark Gurman, the Mac Studio will only be updated in mid-2025. Which does make me think that the M4 Ultra chip will be an absolute monster that requires a ton of R&D. Like, with the M3 Max, we did see that the Ultra Fusion chip interconnect was missing, hence why we did not have an M3 Ultra. So we'll have to see if this returns with the M4 Max, as if it doesn't, it will mean that the M4 Ultra is going to be a completely new chip rather than 4 M2 Maxes combined. Probably even a chip without any efficiency cores and literally just performance cores, which would make a lot of sense on a desktop computer. Of course, it would also explain why this chip takes so long to develop. And just like the Mac Studio, the Mac Pro also won't be seeing any upgrade until mid-2025 as well. That's of course due to it having the M4 Ultra chip as default. There's no other option at all. What I would love to see Apple do is give the Mac Pro an even more powerful chip, an M4 Extreme, whilst also making it considerably smaller, as it makes no sense to have such a large case when it doesn't even support dedicated GPUs due to Apple Silicon. Then there's also the second generation Apple Studio display, which has not seen an update in pretty much 2.5 years since its launch. Now, Mark Gurman did say that Apple was developing multiple external displays in a report from December of 2022. And unfortunately, we haven't really heard anything about this since. Same goes for the Pro Display XDR, which recently turned 5 years old. So if anything, I would expect an update to both the Studio Display and the Pro Display XDR next year alongside the new Mac Studio and the new Mac Pro, as both monitors were originally introduced alongside the Mac Pro and the Mac Studio, so I think it makes sense for Apple to update them at the same time as their Mac counterparts. All in all, the Mac Mini is what I'm looking forward to the most, alongside a new Studio Display hopefully as soon as possible. But let me know, what are you looking forward to the most? I'm Daniel, this means ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.